a special weekend here at Lafayette College, and special weekends call for special guests, and we're really pleased this weekend to have Joe Maddon, the coach of the world champion Chicago Cubs, with us. And Joe, first of all, congratulations on bringing a World Series championship to Chicago, ending a legendary drought that lasted 108 years. There's Cub Nation, and then there's Lafayette Nation, and all of us in Lafayette Nation are very proud of you.
Thank you. That is a drought. 108 years does equal a drought. Thank you. It's great to be back here on campus. Something we had planned for over a year right now. I was talking to Allison, President Allison, and Kim, and et cetera, and my buddy Kevin from down here at Zate. We wanted to throw a party here that prior to the Lafayette Lehigh Football Game was always a very special place and a time of the year for me. My wife Jay's here in town with us also. So it's something we had in the works for a bit, and all of a sudden it's here, and it's like a spring day in the middle of November in Easton on our campus. It's pretty spectacular.
It's an Ernie Banks Day. It's Let's Play 2.
Absolutely.
Hey, Joe, I'm guessing that there were seminal moments in your life that culminated, and the journey goes on, but culminated in the World Series championship. Share some of those with us, if you would.
Seminal moments, well, actually here. I mean, just showing up, driving on 22, the serpentine part of 22, getting off, coming up the hill. I remember my dad and my mom driving me here. I was at McKean Hall the first year in room 123, and you get out of there with your foot locker and you're scared out of your mind.
Right.
And I remember that very distinctly, just driving the 22 coming in here. I remember the first week in school, there's a phone, was a phone on the wall, a pay phone on the wall around the corner by the bathroom. I called my mom. I told my mom, I'm coming home, I want to be a plumber like Dad. I mean, really, when you're from a small town like Hazleton, which is about an hour from here, and all of a sudden you come to the big city campus, which it really was for me at that time. It was really overwhelming. And I had to really get my thoughts together. I was playing football, I was playing freshman football. And that was truly a seminal moment, just coming here and getting by that first week. Then I never wanted to go home after that, actually. And then all the people I met here, honestly, now there's the academic buildings behind us here, but the biggest thing that I got out of Lafayette is our people. My experiences with everybody that I had met, a lot of my friends and fraternity brothers will be back here again tonight. That's my takeaway. Obviously, it's like 40 years later, whatever it is, and I still have tight connections with a lot of the people from Lafayette. So it's primarily that drive, Dad dropping me off, Foot Locker going into Keene over there, and then the people that I met.
You know, Joe, I walked you around campus that day, and I remember you showing me where that phone booth was in McKean Hall.
Yeah.
And there's one kid that's going to go home with a heck of a story, because we walked by an open door, and you glanced in, and there was a Boston Red Sox banner from ceiling to floor. There was nobody in the room. You looked at it, Red Sox. We went down, we found the phone booth. On the way back, you're looking for the room. Now we come back to the room, and there's two kids in the room. They walk in, middle of February. Now the kid's a baseball fan. He knows who you are. You walk in, hello, son, Joe Maddon. The kid goes, I know who you are. Like that. You said, whose banner? He goes, that's my roommate's. It was a great comeback.
Yeah, you just got to try to win them over at some point. But it's so cool. Like a lot of the folks, a lot of the kids are here right now. I'm really looking forward tonight when the party actually gets in the swing. Meeting a lot of the students that are here on campus right now, a young man back there with the Harry Carey shirt and also the Cub hat. It's really exciting for me and for Jay. And Jay, my wife, grew up in Southern California in Fullerton, so it's nice to bring her back and have her experience what this campus life is actually like.
Joe, let's talk a little bit about your approach, because there isn't a coach or a manager out there whose DNA isn't involved in how they coach their team. And it's said that a team's personality reflects that of the coach. Yours is an interesting blend of art and science. On the one hand, you pioneered the use of analytics and all the shifting that goes on. On the other hand, other end of the spectrum, one of your sayings is try not to suck.
Right.
What makes you tick?
I think it's a lot of different things. A big part of it is when you're growing up as a young player, you get coaches that you think are really good, and you get coaches that you think are really bad. And of course, you take a lot away from the coaches that you thought were good. Coach Root, Bob Root, was my quarterback backfield coach. He's probably one of the best communicators I've ever been around. Coach Schnall was also here. Coach Putnam actually reached out to me today, and we had a nice email conversation. So you learn from the good guys. However, I really think you take away a lot from the guys you didn't like, or the women that you didn't like as coaches. I never want to be like that. And for me, I think a lot of times coaching will get too heavy-handed. It gets too vocal, it gets too loud, and there's too much anger involved. I mean, you shouldn't get angry because your player didn't perform. The only time I get upset is if there's mental mistakes or if a player indicates to me that he doesn't care. That gets me angry, but I expect mistakes. So I know I've learned a lot from a lot of good coaches, and a lot of them are right here. But you have to understand, I think you learn a lot from the people you thought didn't do it so well too.
You know, Joe, Game 7 was an instant classic. The whole country was watching. It was an emotional roller coaster, and the game involved a lot of emotional decisions that you had to make on the fly. Share some of those moments with us.
Yeah, it's like that every night. But whenever I do work a game in baseball, I learned from Gene Mock, what you try to do is you try to play the game mentally before, during, and then after. So a lot of the stuff you see happen during the game, I've really scripted prior to the game. And then, of course, things blow up during the game, and you have to just do it on the fly, just like anybody would. And then after the game, I always do like the post-mortem and try to figure it out. But the situation in the World Series, everybody's concerned about Game 7, but I had that written out before the game ever began, and I thought I was playing it pretty well right up to the point where Davis hit a home run. And then all of a sudden, you have to go in another direction, and our guys. It's been really well documented how they got together in the weight room there in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they did. They got together very nicely. Came out. We played as well as we did.
Fowler,
Jason Hayward. And then Mikey Montgomery ends up making the last pitch of the World Series. Yeah. Expected things are going to happen, and then really the unexpected things are going to happen. You have to be able to react to both sides. But I've taught myself to stay in the moment. I'm really a process-oriented person and a manager. But while you're working, one of my concepts is that the process is fearless. I think if you're outcome-based, you're only worrying about wins and losses, you will get nervous, you will get upset, you will become concerned. If you're more process-oriented and you're able to stay in the moment, you're able to manipulate bad moments. Before the playoffs began, I have three team meetings during the course of the year, one in spring training, one at the All-Star break, and then one before the first playoff game. And the meeting I had before the first playoff game, I wanted them to know something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen during this time, and when it does, we have to stay together, we have to regroup, we have to stay focused on the goal at hand. We had different things happen in San Francisco and against the Dodgers, but that was significant, what happened against the Indians. So those are the kind of thoughts that I like to deal with. Those are the kind of thoughts, people say I look calm in the dugout. I'm here to tell you, man, I really, just like we're talking right now, I'm able to process it pretty well because I think I've trained myself to do that. And if you do, then you're prepared for the moment.
You know, Joe, I've been here 37 years. I'm not so sure that you fit Lafayette or Lafayette fit you, because hearing you talk about these things, it's just, I can't help but draw the parallels between what we try to give to our students and what you do. You know, during a post-game interview, and I'm going to challenge you here now because I know this was a tough one. During a post-game interview, you talked about the 10th inning and the beginning of the 10th inning. You pulled a hat out of your back pocket. Yep. And tell us about your own personal rally cap.
Yeah, well, it's actually in our hotel. It goes with me everywhere. It's in my backpack. It's my dad's Angel hat from prior to 2002. He passed away in 2002. So when we were with the Angels and we won the World Series, beat the Giants in 2002, I would go up to the locker. I brought my dad's hat out, put it underneath my books in the dugout in Anaheim, so he was able to see the last pitch against the Giants. But during the course of that, anytime I needed a little bit of pick me up, I'd run upstairs and just touch that and come back to the dugout. So that game in Cleveland the other day, it was getting a little bleak, so we had that rain delay. And I went upstairs, and Peter Chase was upstairs, and so was Theo. And I reached into my bag, and I took that hat, and I poked it right here in the back. And I put my hoodie over top so nobody can see it.
Magic.
This is absolutely true. Then during the course of that inning, I would be touching that hat at different moments. So believe me, I do believe, and he was definitely there. So my dad has now witnessed 2 World Series victories.
Outstanding. You know, Joe, the last time we spoke was over at the Goodman Stadium. It was this kind of weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And on the fly, I wasn't prepared for this, I confess, but on the fly you said, John, make sure you talk about hip. Make sure you talk about hip. And I confess, and I looked it up, and I did my research on it. You talk about your dad, you talk about home and family. Hazleton's home for you. Talk about the Hazleton Integration Project.
Yeah, it's pretty special to us. We're going to have an event next month, December 16th or 17th, something like that, up in Hazleton, where we're down at the Valley Country Club. We're always attempting to raise funds for our Hazleton Integration Project, which is right now it's encapsulated in an old parochial school, the old MPB school. We purchased the building, and it's our attempt to bring together the Hispanic and Anglo cultures in my hometown. When I was growing up there, there was absolutely zero minorities in my hometown. A minority was if you're Italian or a Polak and you walked into the wrong neighborhood. That's a minority up there. But now we're almost, we're bordering on 50% Hispanic. And my concern was that when I'd go home, there's a tremendous disconnect and a lot of tension. And I really thought that the people that had been living there for years misunderstood that these folks that wanted to be there with their young, beautiful children and their families were there to prop us up and bring us back to life. But we were pushing away where we needed to really attract them towards us. So we thought, Jay, by developing and buying this building that we could bring the kids together. If you bring the kids together, the parents almost have to be. And I'm not worried about the parents, I'm worried about the kids. The parents are going to argue there. They have all these predisposed methods that they've been taught, learned behavior that's really false kind of behavior, but the kids are pure. So if you bring the kids up properly and you get them to interact at a young age, they're going to like each other. And as they become 15, 20, 25, they're not going to see the difference between Hispanic or Anglo, whatever. So we have this building, we have a lot of academic programs, athletic programs, after school programs, adult education programs, and it's for everybody in the community, but obviously a lot of it is Hispanic based. So anyway, we're raising money constantly, and right now we're a national model. We're becoming a national model. Even Southern Cal has jumped on board. We have partnered with Penn State and Temple. Lafayette's becoming more involved right now, so we're raising money constantly to further our programming. And eventually, my thought was to build a template whereas we could help other communities in the area. Little communities that's throughout northeastern Pennsylvania and throughout our country where there's this disconnect. Obviously, you look at their previous election. So this is our attempt to get things, the narrative going in the right direction so that people understand this. When my grandparents came over, it was no different. It was no different from my Italian or Polish grandparents. Your kids speak the wrong language, there's loud music, they're dirty. My grandparents heard that about my dad and his brothers and sisters. I was at a daycare center, Hispanic daycare center in Pennsylvania with Jay in 2010, and that's what really slapped me in the face. It was on a Sunday after church, and I'm sitting there with these folks, and it's loud. There's a potluck dinner. The grown-ups are sitting at a low table.
I know where you're going.
High knees, and I see kids running around the place. Everybody's out of control, and I thought to myself, this is exactly what it used to look like.
Yep.
You know, so that's to me the disappointing part, that as we grow up, we forget. And don't forget where you came from. Don't forget what it was like, and understand the more we accept and embrace these people coming into our lives, the quicker Hazleton's going to get back on its feet.
You know, Joe, it's awesome.
Sorry, there's gnats. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's not Washington gnats. That's not Washington gnats.
The Nationals are cool. They're cool.
So, Joe, great program. It's a perfect segue. I know you've spoken with President Byerly on a couple of different occasions, and right now the college is undertaking a 68-year program to become completely need blind, and this speaks to diversity.
Absolutely.
And so talk about how that squares with your philosophy of helping underprivileged kids.
Well, I mean, just look at Major League Baseball. I mean, we're an amalgam of everybody. I mean, I've had Korean players, Japanese players, I've had Dominicans, I've had Puerto Ricans, I've had Cubans, I've had kids from the Netherlands. I've had people from everywhere. I see, Bob. I think you're talking about being blind to wherever anybody came from.
Whoever qualifies. In other words, if you qualify academically, we're not going to.
Why would you?
Have any regard for your ability to pay?
Why would you? I mean, absolutely. The diversity really. You talk about being able to grow. The most important thing for me is to understand what other people are going through. The empathy component. I think the best leaders that I've been around are the ones that demonstrated the most or the highest level of empathy, I believe. Yeah. And so how do you become more empathetic? If you're not, you have to experience and understand other people from different cultures. Whether you're talking about race, religion, whatever the difference may be. And the more you're around folks like that and you learn from these people, the more you grow and the better you feel about your life. And the more folks that you could possibly impact in a positive way. So yeah, I mean, I'm all about that. I've always, not even realizing you're all about it, but you're all about that. Yeah. But again, if you're in the baseball world, you have to be. It's and I know Jackie Robinson.
And it can't be fake.
No. Listen, the one thing I was just talking to Coach Grill about this. The one thing about our team with the Cubs is that the one thing that I love about our guys, and I think it really resonates, is that our guys are authentic. I think authenticity resonates. I think that empathy resonates. And I think if you have those kind of qualities, then you can be a leader, and then you can elicit positive change. If you lack empathy and if you lack authenticity, you're going to only appeal to a small group of people. I think everybody can see through a phony, and so the more you have to contrive who you are, the less potential effective you can be as a leader.
Yeah. You know, Joe, you already talked about the people that bring you back to Lafayette, but why has this college kind of been able to maintain an important place in your heart?
Well, we're sitting on it right now. You know, I started here in '72, '73, and I was recruited by Coach Joe Serra to play football here.
I knew Joe.
I was just talking about Coach Staden from down at Alumni. When you walk in here, you were helped by everybody. Everybody was there to lend a helping hand, whether it was academically with some of the Sheldon Lehman, my best professor that I had here back in the day, was English comp and literature. Everybody was there to help you. And then beyond that, for me personally, just to get personal about it, it was growth. Like I keep talking about it. I come from a small coal town up in northeastern Pennsylvania, where I used to say "use," and pizza was pits. You know, so even just understanding the different differences within the language, and which I thought was right and acceptable. Then you get down here and get your brains beaten in by a bunch of people making fun of you, but I was very easy to handle. But I met people from a different mindset. Again, just what we've been talking about. All the folks here helped me grow. I really don't think that I could be doing what I'm doing right now to the level that I am had I not come here and had been educated for at least 3.5 years. Eventually I got my honorary degree, but I was educated here by a lot of really wonderful people that pushed me mentally. And so that when you leave here, it was much easier for me to interact. You know, it didn't matter if we're talking to a president of the United States or somebody that you meet on the street. Everybody gets treated the same. So I think a lot of that started in Hazleton, don't get me wrong, but I think the real growth moment mentally happened here at Lafayette.
Well, Joe, you may not have gotten your degree in 4 years, but you sure did get your education, and there's a big difference.
Of course.
You know, again, another project or another objective of the college is to increase the size of the faculty, and that will only help the kind of communication that you had individually with professors. You've already mentioned a couple. Is there one or two that stand out?
Well, Professor Heath also with European history. Very entertaining gentleman, man. That was a class you did not want to miss. Even though you might miss one once in a while, you never wanted to miss his stuff. He was that good. And Sheldon Lehman, I think he's in Chicago, and I've heard he might be in Chicago. I'd love to see the guy because he had to write 8 papers. The first 4 were Fs. And he called me in, and we talked about it because I had no clue. Again, I had no clue when it came to that stuff. I was not well read at all. I had no idea how to put a sentence together. He brought me in his office, seriously, and sat me down like for the rest of that first semester, and he taught me how to put a word together, a sentence together. And so I really, even to this day, I do write things once in a while, and I feel good about what I'm writing, and it's all because of him, and I mean that very sincerely. Then you got to talk about the coaching staff. Norm Gigon with baseball.
Geez.
I mean, Gig, see.
I was with Norm at first,
Okay, well, here's what happened with Gig. He was the head baseball coach here at Lafayette when I first came on board. As a pitcher, he converted me to catcher. He converted me to catcher, and he was not a catcher. I went to play with the Angels in the minor leagues in 1976. When I got there, I had Jack Hyatt and Dale Crandall and Chris Cannizzaro, all these major league catchers from the past. They didn't tell me one thing there that I did not hear from Gig originally.
How about that? Yeah.
Pretty incredible. So,
great stuff.
Yeah, he was that good. Gig was that good, and then of course Coach Schnall. I'm still in contact with Coach Schnall.
Yeah.
And so I stay in touch with a lot of the coaches that are from Lafayette too. But all these people made an impact.
Joe, it's a value proposition that we take very seriously, and it's the reason why you say, well, gee whiz, the price tag is this, but I guarantee you the value proposition is equal to that price tag, and of course the financial aid program is going to help us tremendously.
Well, yeah, you know much more about that than I, but of course, I mean, the more we can divide it up among the faculty and the kids, obviously the better it's
Absolutely.
Right.
Joe, last one. About 23% of our students take part in a Division I sport. They do that while maintaining an incredible balance, a challenging curriculum, a social life, obviously. Based on where you've been and the road you've traveled, what message would you give to them?
To all the kids out there, first of all, I mean, for me, it was always about attempt to live your dream. I mean, what is it you really want to do? And there's going to be a lot of naysayers as you attempt to do what you like to do. People don't really understand what's in your heart. Stay true to that. Because, I mean, honestly, and this is just a sports analogy with me, I did retire from football. I wanted just to play baseball, and I got a lot of flack for that. But I really wanted to be a professional baseball player, and I know I'm at Lafayette, I get all that. But my point is, I was able to see through all the negative dialogue that was thrown in my direction, because this was in my heart, was to become a Major League Baseball player. Eventually became a Major League manager. But I think too many times you hear these critical voices, and they could cause you to back down from what you really want to do. And a lot of times it's not just about financial incentive. It's about the incentive that what makes you happy. What do you really want to do with your life? When you wake up in the morning, what attracts you? Those are the kind of things to me that are much more important. So really try to sift through all the negative dialogue. It's really not that important. It really isn't. What matters most is what you think and how you approach the day, and that you're sincere to your efforts.
You know, Joe, we both have been fortunate enough. Obviously, it seems to have dads that we respect and appreciated and took lessons from. I remember my dad saying, "Any dog can quit."
Yeah, of course.
And you obviously never quit.
No.
And you pursued it and you persevered, and it was there for all the world to see in October. Joe, thanks so much for coming back to campus. I hope you have a great weekend. I know you will.
No, yeah, it's off to a great start already, except for that sun being right in my face. Otherwise, we're really excited about this. Like I said, Jay and I have been talking about this for over a year. It's exciting even to see some folks just gathering out here right now. And Coach Kirill, I could not believe he's standing over there when I walked up. But it's really, you have no idea. I've been inundating Jay with different memories that I have of this campus. Even driving here last night, walking around campus during the day. Got some of our security guys from the Cubs over here, Justin and Mario, are here. So it's really wonderful to be able to share all these experiences with people that are very important in your life.
Joe, thanks so much for everything.
Thanks for having me, Brett.
Yes,
appreciate it, man. Thank you.